All right. So as you can see, I'm ready for Halloween. I even have, hopefully you can see this, skeleton socks. So, and I think they glow in the dark, but anyway. So, today we have 2 episodes of Agatha All Along. And I just watched episode 6, and congratulations to those who, like Emergency Awesome, figured out that this whole adventure was Billy all along. Not Agatha all along, but Billy all along. So, it starts off with Rio and Agatha redealing. Basically, Rio wants Billy because Billy has made a mess of the natural order of things. Because, you live, you die. Now, the only problem I have with this was he was created through Wanda's hex. So, was he ever really alive to begin with? So, how is this making a mockery of the natural order of things when he was never technically alive? I don't know. But anyway, so while this is happening, Billy and Jen's totally upset. She's totally freaked out over the fact that Lilia is gone. Lilia is dead, and we know this because Rio mentions it. I was still hoping that because we didn't see her die, that she would still be alive. And we see her taking Alice, and I guess Alice was so shocked at her own death that she never stopped to think, wait a minute, how, your death? Wait, what's going on? Because she didn't know. She wasn't there for Lilia's trial and that revelation that Rio's in actuality Lady Death. So, so they make a deal a la Mephisto, which, based on what the conversation was about special treatment and Nikki, I question whether it was sort of like a Mephisto deal. You make a deal for one thing, but they find some sort of wacky loophole, so they end up punishing you anyway. Because it sounds like Rio made a deal with Agatha, or Agatha made a deal with Rio, and which was to ensure that she doesn't die, I assume. And so to ensure, though, that they get Agatha, that they get a Harkness, they take Nikki. Or something to that effect. So, not that Agatha accidentally absorbed Nikki's power, or that the Darkholds had something to do with it. It had something to do with the deal that Agatha made with Rio. And she even told Rio, when I die, I do not want to see your face. Which, you could see the hurt on Rio's face. She obviously really, really has a thing for Agatha. So, they all meet up again. The idea is that Agatha is going to give Billy up to Rio. But apparently, because of Billy's power, which she still can't control, but because of the nature of Billy's power, he has to give himself up willingly, because he'll just reincarnate again. So they all meet up and they start walking to the last trial, and it turns out that they get to the beginning of the road. And And Billy decides, of course, they look at all those shoes of people who are no longer with us. And he decides that, well, the road isn't holding up its end of the bargain, and we did this to respect the road, so screw that, I'm putting my shoes back on. So when they do that, they end up in a morgue. Agatha mentions it's her basement, but... So we find out that Agatha's spell is what bound Jen. That the guy who supposedly bound her got the spell from Agatha, because apparently it was a kind of thing that was either, give them what they want or burn. And so she was just trying to survive, and she had no idea it was Jen. So either at the beginning when this all happened, it never connected with her that she was the one who bound Jen, or she was just saving it because she's dramatic like that. So she does an unbounding, a bounding ritual. I'm not sure what she did, but she got her power back. And because she got her power back, she went poof. I assume that means that she's back to the real world. And, so then Agatha basically decides that she's going to help Billy find Tommy. So she tells her what Rio told her, including the part about surrendering himself. That he needs to surrender himself because of the reincarnation thing. So she helps him find a body for Tommy. And, Billy was concerned that, wait, am I killing this kid? And no, you aren't killing this kid, just death happens. So Billy then disappears because he got what he wanted. And now these are supposed to be grow lights. So Agatha realizes, well, I have no way of getting my powers now. So she looks at her brooch, which has a locket of Nikki's hair. And then she notices something. And she plants it. And it grows into a flower. And so she manages, of course, at first it's not growing until she starts crying because, water. So she passes her trial. She makes something grow. Now, when she was making that deal with Billy, I honestly thought that Nikki was going to be a part of the deal. This idea that you can put souls into uninhabited bodies. So I really thought that she was going to ask him to do that for Nikki. But apparently, at least they're leading us to believe that she actually wants to join Nikki instead of having Nikki join her. He's dead. She wants to finally die so she can be reunited. Now, she didn't say she wanted to be reunited, but that's the jibe I get, because she, still has a lock of Nikki's hair. She still misses him. Now, the only thing with Jen that was confusing is she told Agatha that she's been bound for 100 years. Now, that wouldn't mean much, except Agatha said it was the 1920s. Okay, now, if this was taking place in the present, which I can't see why it isn't, that would be 1,000 years. So either this is taking place in the 30s, which doesn't seem like it is, or that was a boo-boo. Somebody doesn't know 100 from 1,000. One of the two. So Agatha manages to get out of the basement, and it turns out to be a sort of like a Wizard of Oz, continuation. Instead of going into the cellar where there's a bomb shelter, where there's a hurricane shelter, it's coming out. And so Rio is super pissed at Agatha. Not that she didn't deliver Billy, even though that was probably part of it, but the fact that it's more of a lover's scorned type thing. That she just didn't like that Agatha didn't want her anymore. So she starts attacking Agatha until Billy comes back dressed as Wiccan. So we finally get an appearance from Wiccan proper. So he comes down sort of like similarly to the way Wanda did, only his powers are, of course, blue. So he is helping Agatha take on Rio, and until Agatha tells him, we can't beat death, which technically, yeah, that is true. Even though Billy literally did that at the beginning of this series. He literally beat death by reincarnating into another body. Again, he has no control over it. It took Agatha getting him to concentrate to even find a host for Billy's soul. So, as I said, I really, really thought that she was going to want him to do that for Nikki. I really, really thought that. So it seems like Agatha is now DED dead. And I can't remember where that's from, the DED dead thing. But anyway, so Agatha, Billy gives her his power. And this woman who claimed that she can't control it was able to stop Billy from becoming a husk. Even though it was touch and go there for a moment. And, which was very sweet of Billy, because he didn't trust her as far as he could throw her. He saw what happened with Alice. He heard her say that she can't control it. So yet, he somehow, I don't know if it was because of mind reading that we just didn't see, or what, but he took the chance and gave her power by letting her siphon off of him. Which just goes to show you also that when Alice was doing it, she just didn't have enough power to satisfy Agatha. Either that or because of the deal that they made. And she actually likes Billy. And so it was different because it was more emotional for her. Because he, I guess, reminds her of Nikki. And so she didn't want to lose him. So suddenly she's able to control how much power is siphoned off. Even though, like I said, it was touch and go. So Agatha's back to full power, and she tries to beat death. Like I said, she mentions that we can't, one of us has to give in. And actually, Rio even said, I just want one of you. So Rio's being actually quite generous because the deal she made with Rio, the deal she made with Agatha was for Billy to surrender himself. Billy does that, and suddenly Agatha is like, oh, well, did my job, bye. And Billy is talking to her telepathically, and I couldn't catch what he was saying, but Agatha turns around and Rio gives her the literal kiss of death. And so she ends up dying, and flowers are planted where she's buried. Now, whether any of this is real is questionable, because Billy puts up his hood just like Scarlet Witch did, only when Scarlet Witch did it, it actually covered her face, whereas it just was halfway over Billy's head. And I just had to chuckle when Billy climbs into his car and drives back to Eastview. So now we know for a fact that it's New Jersey in case there was any question. So he drives back home, which again, considering the entrance he made to help Agatha, I found to be hilarious, because he doesn't need to use a car anymore. Because apparently Agatha unlocked his abilities to consciously use his powers, as opposed to whenever he's having an emotional day, suddenly his powers manifest. So he goes home. I would have thought he would have, wanted to stop and make sure he didn't look like he had been in a fight, because, well, parents. And now we know that this whole series has taken 24 hours. Well, he said over 24 hours, so we don't know how much over, but it took place in about a span of a day. And he gets home, and we don't hear how he got himself out of this. Why are you bleeding? You've been gone for 24 hours. What's going on? We don't know how he managed to get out of that, because we don't hear him say anything. We just see him washing up, going into his room, and suddenly he's looking around, and he's seeing images of, like the shoes, the Wizard of Oz, let's see what else. They did show Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I'm not sure where that was supposed to take place. Maybe just that whole aesthetic, I don't know. So, and he comes to the realization that this whole thing was done by him. He's the one who created this road. And Emergency Awesome caught it immediately, because when they looked through the door to go down into the Witch's Road, it was blue, which is Billy's magic color. And Agatha did not recognize this version of the road. And she even said, she basically told Billy on the road that he's the one who created this, because if it weren't for him and his family, this would be far less dramatic. So, yeah, the clues were there that Billy's the one who created it. Now, the question becomes, now we saw Rio claiming claiming Alice's body and the Salem 7 apparently and Lilia. But the question becomes, because Billy created this, that he warped reality, because he even heard Lilia mention that he is able to change reality to suit his goals. That's when he realized, I did this. This was me. And then it ends with him turning around and someone saying boo. Now, I'm not sure if it was Agatha or if it was Rio. I'm assuming it's going to be Rio, because if the others are dead and Rio accepted them, I'm sure she did the same with Agatha. But he is a reality warper, so he could easily bring them back. And by that I mean the way Wanda brought back Vision. Her idea of Vision, because he can't exist outside the hex. So it was only a momentary thing, but he had his powers. He was basically Vision as long as he stayed in the hex. So maybe he'll do something like that to defeat Rio, or at least not have to, surrender, not have to give up his body. That he can somehow bring back the coven, put the band back together for one last gig. Now, whether that's going to happen, I read that the next episode is going to cover the history of Agatha and the Witch's Road, the truth behind it, which makes me question if any of this is real. So, yeah, that is how episode 8 ends. And we're just going to have to see what ends up happening. Who said boo? Joe Locke mentioned that he hasn't met Elizabeth Olsen, so I'm assuming it's not going to be Wanda. I mean, I'm sure Wanda is just, once she finds Billy, if she hasn't figured it out already, she's going to be just smacking herself that her son was right there, and yet she went multiverse hopping to find him, because, she was so zeroed in on what she remembered as her children, that even if the sigil didn't stop her from finding Billy, I don't know if she would have recognized him. So yeah, obviously Billy has to survive this series, because they are doing some version of Young Avengers. Whether they're actually going to do it as a movie or in some other fashion, they're setting up Young Avengers. So I doubt they would kill off Billy. Let's see if there's anything else in this episode that I missed. Actually, now that I think about it, Jen is still alive somewhere. So, even if he doesn't use his reality warping powers, he does have access to another witch, which is Jen. And considering how emotional she was, especially with Lilia, all I can think of is that she would be 100% willing to help Billy in whatever he needs to do to not be to not be taken by Rio. Because Jen doesn't seem to be friendly with Rio. I mean, she understands that it's the natural order of things, but would she be willing to help Billy? So yeah, there are still questions to be answered, like what ultimately happens to Billy. Since they brought back Tommy, I'm going to say Billy survives, because that would super suck. Then there's the question of what happens to his boyfriend, because anyone familiar with the comics know that he's an it couple with Teddy, who is currently the emperor of the joint Skrull empire. Skrull and Kree. There we go. I knew that there was something I was missing. And so either they're going to do a surprise, he's Teddy, or word is going to get out about Billy, and Eddie is going to be like, nope, no, not want to have anything to do with us, and possibly question his feelings for Billy. Because, I mean, let's face it, if you're dealing with a reality warper, and especially someone who can't control their powers, of course you're going to question, your relationship with them. Is this something that you legit partook in? Or was this something that was helped along with magic? So it's possible he could dump him after finding out how freaking powerful he is. Anything's possible. I don't think in the comics his parents ever found out. But I really am not familiar with the Young Avengers, so don't know. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to mention in this video. I think I pretty much covered everything. So with that, I will see you guys in the next video.